the Christmas cards scattered across my kitchen table like evidence of the most heartbreaking crime I'd ever witnessed. Maya's beautiful face had been erased from every single photograph. 6-year-old Maya, my precious granddaughter, wiped from existence as if she'd never been part of our family at all. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I'm Eleanor Parker, and at 68, I thought I'd seen enough family drama to last 3 lifetimes. But nothing prepared me for discovering that my daughter-in-law Brittany had digitally murdered my granddaughter's place in our family Christmas cards. Not literally murdered, of course, but when you erase a child from family photos, what else would you call it? Let me back up 6 months. January 15th changed everything. My eldest son David and his wife Sarah died in a head-on collision with a drunk driver on Interstate 95. David was 34, Sarah 32, and they left behind their daughter Maya, who'd just turned 6. Maya is biracial. David and Sarah's beautiful blend of his pale Irish skin and her rich chocolate complexion. When Child Services called asking if I could take custody, I didn't hesitate. "Of course," I said, my voice breaking. "She's my granddaughter." Maya arrived at my house 3 days later, carrying a small pink suitcase and her favorite stuffed elephant, Mr. Peanuts. She hadn't spoken since the accident. My younger son Mark and his wife Brittany lived just 2 miles away with their children, Connor and Lily, ages 10 and 8. I assumed they'd welcome Maya with open arms. After all, we were family, right? That's what families do. They rally around each other during tragedies. I was wrong about everything. The first sign came during Maya's first family dinner at Mark and Brittany's house. As we sat around their pristine dining room table, Brittany kept steering the conversation away from Maya, as if the child were invisible. When Maya accidentally knocked over her water glass, Brittany's smile tightened into something sharp and cold. "Accidents happen," I said quickly, helping Maya clean up. "Yes," Brittany agreed, her voice honeyed, but her eyes ice-cold. "They certainly do." Mark remained silent, cutting his steak with surgical precision, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Connor and Lily, normally chatty children, seemed unusually quiet around their new cousin. The whole evening felt like walking through a minefield where one wrong step would cause an explosion. That night, Maya climbed into my bed, something she'd been doing since arriving. "Grandma Ellie," she whispered, using the nickname she'd given me. "Why doesn't Aunt Brittany like me?" My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. How do you explain racism to a 6-year-old who's already lost everything? How do you tell a child that some people judge others by the color of their skin? I held her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Some people have small hearts, sweetheart," I said carefully. "But my heart is big enough for all the love you need." She nodded against my chest, and I felt her tears soaking through my nightgown. In that moment, I made a silent promise to protect this precious child from anyone who tried to make her feel less than the miracle she was. But I had no idea what was coming. The next few months tested every ounce of patience I possessed. Brittany's passive aggression toward Maya became increasingly obvious, though she maintained plausible deniability whenever Mark was around. She'd forget to include Maya in family group texts about pool parties or movie nights. When I'd show up with Maya anyway, Brittany would feign surprise. "Oh, I didn't realize you were bringing her," she'd say, emphasis on her, like Maya was a stray dog I'd picked up. Mark worked long hours at his accounting firm, conveniently missing most of these interactions. When I tried to discuss Brittany's behavior with him, he'd wave me off with practiced dismissal. "Mom, you're being oversensitive," he'd say. "Brittany's adjusting to having another child around. Give her time." Time. As if basic human decency required an adjustment period. Maya, meanwhile, was slowly coming back to life. She'd started speaking again in July, began kindergarten in September, and even made a best friend named Emma who lived down the street. Watching her giggle during their play dates reminded me that children are incredibly resilient when they feel safe and loved. But Brittany's coldness continued. During Connor's birthday party in October, she seated Maya at the kids' table while placing Connor and Lily with the adults. When Maya asked why she couldn't sit with her cousins, Brittany said the kids' table was more fun anyway. The lie slid off her tongue so smoothly, I almost believed it myself. Almost. I started documenting these incidents in a small notebook. Not sure why, but following some instinct that told me I'd need evidence eventually. Each entry felt like gathering ammunition for a war I didn't want to fight, but sensed was inevitable. November brought the Christmas photo session. Brittany had booked us all at Morrison Photography, the same studio that had captured our family memories for the past 5 years. She'd even bought matching outfits for everyone. Traditional Christmas sweaters in deep reds and forest greens. Maya needs to match too, I insisted, when Brittany showed me the coordinated outfits she'd selected for everyone except my granddaughter. Of course, Brittany smiled that sharp smile. I just wasn't sure about her size. She produced a sweater for Maya, clearly purchased as an afterthought. It was the right size but the wrong shade of red, making Maya stand out like a deliberately mismatched puzzle piece. Still, Maya was thrilled to be included, twirling in front of my mirror with pure joy. The photo session itself went smoothly. Maya behaved beautifully, smiling on cue and following the photographer's directions. In the group shots, she stood proudly in the front row between Connor and Lily, her gap-toothed grin lighting up her entire face. Mr. Morrison, the photographer, commented on what a beautiful family we made. "That little one has such expressive eyes," he said, pointing to Maya. "She's going to be a heartbreaker when she grows up." Brittany's smile never wavered, but I caught the flash of something dark in her eyes, something that made my stomach clench with foreboding, but I dismissed it. We were family, after all. Surely even Brittany wouldn't cross certain lines. I was wrong again. December 15th arrived gray and bitter, matching my mood as I sorted through the day's mail. The large manila envelope from Morrison Photography sat on top of the pile, heavier than I'd expected. Inside were our Christmas cards, 50 copies of our family portrait ready for mailing. The photograph was stunning. Mark and Brittany stood in the back row, their hands on Connor and Lily's shoulders. I sat in an antique chair to the side, and there in the front center, Maya beamed at the camera with the uninhibited joy only children possess. Or at least, that's how I remembered the photo session. The printed cards told a different story entirely. I stared at the images, blinking hard, convinced my 68-year-old eyes were playing tricks on me. But no matter how many times I looked, the truth remained unchanged. Maya had been completely erased from every single photograph, not just moved or cropped out, but digitally removed so expertly that you'd never know she'd existed. The background had been seamlessly filled in where she'd stood. Connor and Lily now appeared to be holding hands in the front row, with no gap between them to suggest another child had ever been there. Even the shadows had been adjusted to maintain the illusion. My hands shook as I examined each card. Brittany had orchestrated this surgical removal of my granddaughter from our family memories with the precision of a professional assassin. How long had she been planning this? How much had it cost? And most importantly, how many other people had received these edited versions of our family? I grabbed my phone and called Morrison Photography. "Mr. Morrison, this is Eleanor Parker. We had our family photos taken last month." "Oh yes, Mrs. Parker. Beautiful family. How did the cards turn out?" "That's what I'm calling about. There seems to be a mistake. My granddaughter Maya is missing from all the photos." Silence stretched across the line. Then, carefully, "Mrs. Parker, I think you need to speak with your daughter-in-law. She requested those specific edits when she picked up the photos. She said there'd been a family disagreement and asked us to remove the little girl from the final prints." A family disagreement. That's how Brittany had characterized the systematic exclusion of a 6-year-old orphan from her own family's Christmas cards. "Did she pay extra for this editing?" I asked, my voice barely controlled. "Yes, ma'am. Digital retouching runs about $300 for that level of work." $300. Brittany had spent $300 to erase Maya from existence. That kind of hatred doesn't happen overnight. It festers and grows until it becomes an obsession. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, surrounded by evidence of the most calculated cruelty I'd ever witnessed. 50 Christmas cards announcing to the world that Maya Parker didn't exist, had never existed, would never be acknowledged as part of our family. The front door burst open, and Maya bounded in from her after-school program, cheeks red from the December cold. "Grandma Ellie, Emma's mom says we can have a sleepover this weekend if it's okay with you." She stopped short when she saw the cards scattered across the table. Her eyes widened as she took in the images, her young mind struggling to process what she was seeing. "Grandma," she whispered, picking up one of the cards with trembling fingers. "Where am I?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a house fire, toxic and suffocating. Maya stood beside my kitchen table, holding our family Christmas card, her 6-year-old mind trying to make sense of her own disappearance. "I was there," she said, her voice small and confused. "I remember standing right there between Connor and Lily. We were all wearing red sweaters. I wanted to lie, to protect her innocence a little longer, but Maya had already lost too much. She deserved the truth, even if it was ugly." "Yes, sweetheart, you were there. Someone removed you from the pictures on purpose." Her eyes filled with tears. "Who would do that? Why don't they want me in the family pictures?" The raw pain in her voice nearly broke me. How do you explain evil to a child? How do you tell them that someone who should love them chose hatred instead? "Some people are scared of differences," I said carefully, pulling her onto my lap. "Your Aunt Brittany is one of those people, but that says nothing about you and everything about her." Maya studied the card again, tracing the empty space where she should have been. "Do other people think I don't belong in our family too? The only opinions that matter are from people who love you," I said firmly. "And I love you more than all the stars in the sky." She nodded, but I could see the damage was done. A seed of self-doubt had been planted by Brittany's cruelty, and I knew from experience how quickly those seeds could grow in a child's heart. That evening, after Maya went to bed, I called Mark. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Mom, I'm in the middle of something. Can this wait?" "No, it cannot wait. We need to talk about the Christmas cards." Silence. Then, warily, "What about them?" "Don't play dumb with me, Mark. Your wife paid $300 to have Maya digitally removed from our family photos. Your daughter, my granddaughter, has been erased from existence." Another pause. "Mom, I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation." "The reasonable explanation is that your wife is a racist who can't stand having a biracial child in her perfect white family portrait." "You're being dramatic." Those 4 words ignited something dangerous inside me. Dramatic. The same dismissive term he'd used every time I tried to discuss Brittany's treatment of Maya. The same word men had been using to silence women's legitimate concerns for decades. "Mark James Parker," I said, using his full name like I had when he was 10 years old and tracking mud through my clean kitchen. "I am not being dramatic. I am being factual. Your wife committed an act of psychological violence against a 6-year-old orphan, and you're going to defend her? It's complicated, Mom. Brittany's been under a lot of stress. We've all been under stress. I lost my eldest son. Maya lost both parents. But you don't see us taking it out on innocent children." I could hear him breathing on the other end, could practically see him running his hands through his hair the way he did when cornered. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally. "I want you to be a man and stand up to your wife. I want you to demand she apologize to Maya and order corrected Christmas cards that include your niece. I'll talk to her. You'll do more than talk. Mark, you'll act. Because if you don't, I will." 2 days passed without a word from Mark or Brittany. Not a phone call, not a text. Not even the courtesy of acknowledging they'd received my ultimatum. Their silence spoke volumes about where their loyalties lay, and it wasn't with Maya. I spent those 2 days formulating a plan. At 68, I'd learned that sometimes the only way to deal with bullies is to become something they fear more than their own hatred. Brittany wanted to play games with our family? Fine. But she was about to discover that I'd been playing family politics since before she was born. On Thursday morning, I drove to Morrison Photography and requested copies of the original, unedited photographs. Mr. Morrison, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, printed them immediately. "Mrs. Parker," he said as he handed me the envelope, "I want you to know that in 30 years of family photography, I've never had a request like this." It troubled me deeply. "As it should," I replied. "Thank you for your honesty and your help." My next stop was FedEx office, where I had the original photos blown up to poster size. The young man behind the counter, probably no older than Maya's father had been, looked at the images with genuine admiration. "Beautiful family," he commented as he processed my order. "That little girl in front has such a sweet smile." "Yes," I agreed, my voice tight with emotion. "She does." That afternoon, Maya came home from school quieter than usual. She'd started asking questions about the Christmas cards, wanting to know if we were still sending them to relatives. I'd deflected as best I could, but children have a way of sensing when adults are keeping secrets. "Grandma Ellie," she said while we decorated sugar cookies, "are we having Christmas dinner at Uncle Mark's house this year?" The annual Christmas dinner. I'd completely forgotten about Brittany's precious family tradition. The elaborate meal she planned for weeks and photographed extensively for her social media accounts. This year's dinner would include extended family, Mark's colleagues, and several of Brittany's closest friends. A perfect audience for what I had planned. "Yes, sweetheart, we are." "Will Aunt Brittany be nice to me?" The innocent question pierced my heart. Maya was learning to expect cruelty from people who should protect her, already developing the defensive instincts that children of color often must acquire too young. "I can't control how Aunt Brittany acts," I said carefully, "but I can promise you that Grandma Ellie will always stand up for you." She nodded solemnly, her small fingers working carefully to place chocolate chips on her cookie. Such a serious expression for such a young face. Friday evening, Mark finally called. "Mom, Brittany and I have discussed the situation." "Have you now?" "She feels terrible about the misunderstanding with the photos. It was never her intention to hurt Maya's feelings." Misunderstanding. As if accidentally ordering a child's digital execution could happen by mistake. What exactly does she intend to do to fix this misunderstanding? Well, it's too late to order new cards this year, but next year she promises to be more careful about the photo selection process. More careful. As if the problem had been carelessness rather than calculated malice. "That's not acceptable, Mark." "Mom, be reasonable. The holidays are stressful enough without creating unnecessary drama." There was that word again. Drama. As if protecting my granddaughter's dignity was some kind of theatrical performance rather than basic human decency. "You're right," I said finally. "The holidays are stressful, but don't worry about creating unnecessary drama, son. I'll handle that part myself." Christmas morning dawned crisp and bright, with that particular quality of light that makes everything look like it's been dusted with diamonds. Maya woke up at 6:30, bouncing into my bedroom with the infectious excitement only children possess on Christmas Day. "Santa came! Santa came! He ate the cookies and left a note." I smiled, remembering how I'd carefully nibbled the edges of the sugar cookies we'd left out and written a thank you note in my best Santa handwriting. Maya had been worried that Santa might not know her new address, a concern that had broken my heart all over again. We spent the morning in our pajamas, opening presents and drinking hot chocolate with way too many marshmallows. Maya loved everything, from the art supplies to the new winter coat to the chapter books I hoped would fuel her love of reading. But her favorite gift was a silver locket with space for 2 photos. "It's for pictures of Mommy and Daddy," I explained, helping her clasp it around her neck, "so they can always be close to your heart." She touched the locket gently, her eyes bright with tears and joy. "Thank you, Grandma Ellie. It's perfect." At 2:00, we arrived at Mark and Brittany's house for Christmas dinner. Their home looked like something from a magazine spread, with perfectly coordinated decorations and a dining room table that could have been featured in better homes and gardens. Brittany had outdone herself this year, probably because she had an audience to impress. The guest list included Mark's business partner Robert and his wife Linda, Brittany's sister Jennifer and her husband Tom, plus their teenage daughter Ashley. Mark's colleague Dave and his new girlfriend Christine rounded out the group. All white, all upper middle class, all exactly the kind of people Brittany wanted to associate with. Maya looked beautiful in the red velvet dress I'd bought her, her hair styled in neat braids with matching ribbons. She greeted everyone politely, her manners impeccable despite her young age. But I noticed how Brittany's friends barely acknowledged her, their eyes sliding past her as if she were invisible, just like in the photographs. Dinner conversation flowed around topics I'd heard 1,000 times before. Property values, vacation plans, children's achievements, work promotions. Maya sat quietly beside me, occasionally adding a comment when directly addressed but mostly just observing. She was learning to read social cues, understanding instinctively that she wasn't truly welcome in this gleaming world of Brittany's creation. After the main course, as Brittany served her famous tiramisu, Robert's wife Linda mentioned Christmas cards. "Brittany, your family photo was absolutely gorgeous this year," she gushed. Such a perfect representation of your beautiful family." Brittany beamed, accepting the compliment as if she'd personally arranged everyone's genetics. "Thank you, Linda. Morrison Photography always does such excellent work." Maya looked up at me, confusion clouding her features. I squeezed her hand under the table, offering what comfort I could. But the moment was coming, and we both knew it. "Did everyone get their cards?" Brittany asked the table. "I sent them out to about 60 families this year." 60 families. 60 copies of Maya's erasure had been distributed throughout their social circle, announcing to the world that my granddaughter didn't exist. "They were beautiful," Jennifer agreed. "Connor and Lily looked so grown up." No mention of Maya. Not from anyone. As if the child sitting right there at the table was a ghost that only I could see. That's when I stood up, walked to the hall closet where I'd hidden my surprise, and returned with a large wrapped package. "Brittany," I announced, my voice carrying clearly through the suddenly quiet dining room. "I have a Christmas gift for you." She looked pleased, but puzzled as I placed the package in front of her. "Eleanor? You didn't need to bring me anything." "Oh, but I did," I smiled, my voice warm as honey and twice as deadly. "This is something I think everyone should see." Brittany's manicured fingers worked carefully at the wrapping paper, her audience watching with polite interest. The dining room had gone quiet, except for the soft classical music playing in the background and the gentle scrape of dessert forks against china. "Eleanor, this is so thoughtful," Brittany murmured, though I caught the slight tension in her voice. She could sense something was different about me tonight, some shift in the family dynamics that set her predatory instincts on high alert. The wrapping fell away to reveal a large picture frame, face down. Brittany lifted it, turned it over, and froze. Her face went from Christmas morning pink to ash gray in the span of a heartbeat. The frame contained 2 photographs side by side. On the left, the original Morrison Photography family portrait with Maya standing proudly in the front row, her gap-toothed grin lighting up the entire image. On the right, the digitally altered version Brittany had distributed, with Maya erased so completely that she might never have existed. The silence that followed was the kind you hear right before a tornado hits, when even the birds stop singing and the air itself seems to hold its breath. "What is this?" Brittany whispered, but her voice carried clearly through the quiet room. "Your Christmas gift," I replied pleasantly, as if I'd given her a lovely scarf or a bottle of wine. I thought everyone should see both versions of our family Christmas card. "The real one, and the one you edited." Robert's wife Linda leaned forward, squinting at the frame. "I don't understand. What's the difference?" "Look closely at the front row," I suggested helpfully. "In the original photo, you'll see my granddaughter Maya standing between Connor and Lily. In the version Brittany sent out, Maya has been digitally removed." The reaction was immediate and devastating. Linda gasped audibly. Jennifer's mouth fell open. Dave's girlfriend Christine actually pushed back from the table as if the frame contained something contagious. Mark had gone completely still, his fork suspended halfway to his mouth, tiramisu dripping onto his plate. "Mom, what are you doing?" "I'm giving your wife exactly what she wanted for Christmas," I said calmly. "Public recognition for her artistic skills. Did you know she paid $300 to have Maya professionally erased from our family photos?" Brittany finally found her voice. "This is taken completely out of context. You don't understand the full situation." "Then please," I gestured graciously, "help us all understand. Explain to our guests why you spent $300 to remove a 6-year-old orphan from her own family's Christmas cards." All eyes turned to Brittany, who looked like a deer caught in headlights. Her carefully cultivated image as the perfect hostess, the devoted mother, the loving daughter-in-law, was crumbling in real time. She started, then stopped. There were technical issues with the lighting. The shadows were what? "Brittany?" I pressed gently. "Wrong color?" The accusation hung in the air like a blade. Everyone at the table understood exactly what I was implying, and Brittany's inability to deny it spoke volumes. Maya, who had been watching this exchange with wide eyes, suddenly spoke up in her clear, innocent voice. "Aunt Brittany, why did you take me out of the picture? Did I do something wrong?" The question from Maya was like a match dropped into gasoline. Brittany's face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Sweetheart, it wasn't—" Brittany started, then stopped, realizing that any explanation would only dig her grave deeper. Jennifer, Brittany's sister, broke the silence first. "Britt, please tell me this isn't what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like, and everyone knew it. Robert cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Perhaps Linda and I should head home. It's getting late." "No," I said firmly, surprising myself with the authority in my voice. "Please stay. This conversation is long overdue, and Maya deserves to have witnesses when her family finally tells the truth about how she's been treated." Dave's girlfriend, Christine, who worked in social media marketing, studied the photographs with professional interest. This level of digital editing isn't cheap or easy. This was deliberate and sophisticated work. Mark finally found his voice. "Brittany, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking about our family's image," Brittany snapped, her composure finally cracking completely. "I was thinking about how people perceive us, about the children's futures, about property values and social standing, and all the things you're apparently too naive to consider." The words spilled out like poison from a broken bottle. "Do you have any idea what it's like having people ask questions? Having to explain why she looks so different from the rest of us? Having people assume things about our family?" Ashley, Jennifer's teenage daughter, looked appalled. "Aunt Brittany, she's just a little kid. She lost her parents." "And that's tragic," Brittany continued, her voice rising. "But it doesn't mean we have to sacrifice our entire family's reputation for political correctness." The mask was completely off now. This was the real Brittany, the woman who smiled sweetly while harboring venomous thoughts about a 6-year-old child whose only crime was existing while black in her white family. Maya, bless her heart, was trying to process adult concepts her young mind couldn't fully grasp. "Grandma Ellie, what's property values? Why would I hurt that?" Before I could answer, Linda stood up abruptly. "Robert, we're leaving. Now." As they gathered their coats, Linda paused beside Maya's chair. "Sweetheart, you're a beautiful little girl, and anyone who can't see that has something wrong with their eyes, not you." The exodus began. "See." Dave and Christine made hasty excuses and left. Jennifer and Tom lingered, clearly torn between loyalty to Brittany and their obvious discomfort with what they'd witnessed. "Britt," Jennifer said quietly, "I think you need to apologize." "Apologize for what? For trying to protect my family?" "Protect them from what?" I asked. "From love? From diversity? From learning that families come in all colors?" Connor and Lily had been unusually quiet throughout dinner, but now Connor spoke up. "Mom, Maya's our cousin. Why wouldn't we want her in our pictures?" Brittany turned on her own son with startling viciousness. "Connor, you don't understand adult decisions." "I understand that you made Maya cry," he replied with the brutal honesty only children possess. "And that's mean." The room fell silent again. Out of the mouths of babes came the simplest truth of all. With most of the guests gone, the remaining family sat in Brittany's perfect dining room like survivors of a social catastrophe. The beautiful table setting, the gourmet meal, the carefully orchestrated evening had all been destroyed by 2 simple photographs and one grandmother's refusal to stay quiet. Mark sat with his head in his hands, finally forced to confront what his wife had become. Connor and Lily looked confused and upset, their mother's behavior clearly troubling them. Jennifer and Tom exchanged worried glances, obviously debating whether to stay or flee. Maya climbed onto my lap, seeking comfort. "Grandma Ellie, I want to go home." "Of course, sweetheart." I stood, lifting her with me. "Mark, we'll be leaving now." "Mom." "Wait." Mark looked up, his face haggard. "We need to talk about this." "No, we don't. We needed to talk about this months ago when I first told you about Brittany's treatment of Maya, but you chose to dismiss my concerns as drama." Brittany had retreated to the kitchen, ostensibly to clean up but really to escape the judgment in everyone's eyes. I could hear her aggressively loading the dishwasher, the sound of expensive china clinking dangerously. "What happens now?" Jennifer asked quietly. "Now Brittany faces the consequences of her choices," I said simply. "And Maya learns that she has at least one person in this family who will always fight for her." As I gathered our coats, Connor approached hesitantly. "Grandma Eleanor, is Maya really not coming to family dinners anymore?" The pain in his young voice broke my heart. These children were being torn apart by their mother's hatred, forced to choose sides in a war they didn't understand. That depends on your parents, sweetheart. Maya will always be welcome wherever I am. Mark walked us to the door, his movements heavy with defeat. Mom, I'm sorry. I should have listened. Yes, you should have. But more importantly, you should have protected your niece. What can I do to fix this? I paused, considering. Mark looked genuinely remorseful. But remorse without action was just another form of cowardice. First, you can demand that Brittany get counseling for her obvious racism. Second, you can order new Christmas cards with Maya included and send them to everyone who received the edited versions. Third, you can have a serious conversation with Connor and Lily about family values and acceptance. And if Brittany refuses? I looked at my younger son, this man I'd raised to be better than this, and felt a deep sadness for what he'd allowed himself to become. Then you'll have to decide what kind of man you want to be, Mark, and what kind of father. We drove home in silence, Maya curled against me in the passenger seat. As we pulled into our driveway, she finally spoke. Grandma Ellie, why does Aunt Brittany hate me? I'd been dreading this question for months, but now that it had come, I found I had an answer ready. Because she's afraid, sweetheart. Some people are so afraid of anything different from themselves that they choose hate instead of love. But that's her problem, not yours. Will she ever stop being afraid? I helped her out of the car, this wise little girl who'd been forced to grow up too fast. I don't know, Maya, but I know that you don't have to wait for her to change to be happy and loved. As we walked to our front door, I realized that tonight had been both an ending and a beginning. The charade of family unity was over, but something more honest had taken its place. 3 days after Christmas, Mark called with news that changed everything. His voice was strained, exhausted, like a man who hadn't slept in 72 hours. Mom, I need to tell you something. About Brittany and the photos. Maya was at Emma's house for a play date, giving us privacy for what I sensed would be a difficult conversation. I'm listening. It wasn't just the Christmas cards. After you left on Christmas night, I confronted Brittany about everything. She broke down and told me the truth about what she's been planning. My stomach clenched. What kind of planning? She's been building a case to have Maya removed from your custody. She's been documenting everything, photographing your house, researching your finances, even talking to other parents at Maya's school about your age and ability to care for a young child. The words hit me like physical blows. What? She hired a private investigator 3 months ago. She has files. Mom, photos of you looking tired at school pickup, documentation of every time Maya got sick or had a scraped knee, records of your grocery shopping and doctor's appointments. She's been trying to build a narrative that you're an unfit guardian. I sank into my kitchen chair, the same chair where I discovered the edited Christmas cards. On what grounds? Your age, primarily. She found some legal precedent about elderly guardians being deemed unable to provide adequate care for young children. She was planning to petition the court after the new year. The cruelty was breathtaking. Not content with simply excluding Maya from family photos, Brittany had been systematically working to remove her from our lives entirely. And you knew nothing about this? Nothing. I swear, Mom. When she told me, I was so disgusted I couldn't even look at her. This isn't the woman I married. Or maybe it is. And I've been blind to who she really was. What stopped her from filing already? Mark was quiet for a long moment. The Christmas dinner confrontation. She realized that after what happened, any court case would involve testimony from witnesses who saw her behavior. Jennifer already called and told her she'd testify on your behalf if needed. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by rage. She was going to steal Maya away from the only stable home she's known since her parents died. There's more. Mom, I found financial records. She's been paying for the private investigator with money from Connor and Lily's college funds. She spent over $8,000 trying to destroy you and Maya. $8,000. The price Brittany had placed on her hatred was exactly $8,000 of her own children's future. Mark, I need you to get me copies of everything. Every photo, every report, every document she compiled. Already done. I'm bringing them to you tonight after the kids go to bed. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen processing this revelation. Brittany hadn't just been casually cruel. She'd been strategically vicious, planning Maya's removal with the precision of a military campaign. But she'd made one critical error. she'd underestimated the power of public shame and the loyalty of family members who actually possessed consciences. That evening, Mark arrived with a thick manila folder containing the evidence of his wife's obsession. Photo after photo of me and Maya at the grocery store, at the park, outside Maya's school. Reports detailing our daily routines, my medical appointments, even my friendship with Emma's mother. "She hired someone to follow you," Mark said quietly. "For 3 months, everywhere you went, someone was watching and documenting." I flipped through page after page of surveillance photos, feeling violated in a way I'd never experienced. There was Maya and me building a snowman in our front yard. There we were at the library story time. There we were at her pediatrician's office for a routine checkup. "This is stalking," I said flatly. "I know." And when I pointed that out to Brittany, she said she was protecting the family from a custody situation that could embarrass us all. Even now, even caught red-handed, Brittany was spinning this as somehow being Maya's fault. Where is she now? Staying at her sister's house. I asked her to leave until I could figure out how to explain this to Connor and Lily. I closed the folder, my hands shaking with suppressed fury. "Mark, this woman tried to destroy your niece's life. She spent thousands of dollars and months of effort trying to tear apart what little stability Maya has left. This isn't something you work through in marriage counseling." "I know. I'm filing for divorce next week." 6 months later, I stood in my garden watching Maya chase butterflies among the flower beds we'd planted together in the spring. The morning sun caught the highlights in her hair, and her laughter rang out like music across our peaceful yard. Mark's divorce from Brittany had been swift and decisive. The evidence of her stalking and harassment campaign made negotiations simple, and Mark received primary custody of Connor and Lily. Brittany had moved to her sister's city 2 hours away, relegated to supervised weekend visits that she rarely bothered to exercise. The custody challenge against me had died before it began. When news of Brittany's surveillance campaign became public knowledge, it triggered an investigation by Child Protective Services. Instead of questioning my fitness as a guardian, they commended me for providing Maya with a stable, loving home and recommended that I continue as her legal guardian. Morrison Photography had voluntarily printed and mailed corrected Christmas cards to everyone on Brittany's original list, free of charge. Mr. Morrison included a personal note explaining that an error had been made in the initial printing. Most people understood exactly what kind of error he meant. Connor and Lily now visited us every other weekend, their relationship with Maya growing stronger without their mother's toxic influence. They were learning what family really meant, not the superficial image Brittany had tried to maintain, but the deeper bonds of love and acceptance. Maya had started first grade at a new school, one with a more diverse student body, where her biracial heritage was celebrated rather than questioned. She'd made friends easily, her natural resilience and sunny personality shining through despite everything she'd endured. "Grandma Ellie," she called from across the garden. "Look what I found." She ran toward me holding a perfect black and white butterfly that had apparently decided to rest on her finger. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. This beautiful creature of mixed colors choosing to trust my granddaughter. "It's gorgeous, sweetheart. Just like our family," she said matter-of-factly. "Different colors, but still beautiful together." I hugged her tight, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo and the fresh morning air. This was what Brittany had tried to destroy with her narrow-minded hatred. This was what she'd spent thousands of dollars and months of effort attempting to tear apart. But love, I'd learned, is stronger than hate. Truth is more powerful than manipulation. And sometimes, the most important battles are fought not with weapons or lawyers, but with the simple act of refusing to let cruelty win. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. "Picked up Connor and Lily from school. Maya's science fair project won first place. Can't wait to celebrate tonight. Thank you for teaching me what real family looks like." I smiled, watching Maya gently encourage the butterfly back to flight. She waved goodbye to it as it soared toward the sky, then skipped back to her flower beds to continue her gardening. The Christmas cards from last year were long forgotten, filed away with other unpleasant memories. But the lesson they'd taught us about standing up to hatred, about protecting the innocent, about choosing love over fear, those lessons would last forever. As I often told Maya, family isn't defined by matching skin colors or perfect photographs. It's defined by the people who show up when you need them most, who fight for you when you can't fight for yourself, and who love you exactly as you are. And by that definition, Maya and I had the most beautiful family in the world. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.